Do you have any idea who you're talking to? Many of my great-great-grand family members dodge rolled against the Germans on World War I, dodge rolled in the sequel, and dodge rolled in the various World War-like spin-offs that followed. Me? Well, I've served at least 2 tours of every mainline From Software game since Demon's Souls and countless indie adjacents. I've parried bosses you wouldn't believe. That's right, I'm a Souls-like veteran. Salute me, damn it. I think we need to come to terms with the fact that there are a lot of video games, large video games, larger than they've ever been. And I like to hear from people who take the time to chew their games and offer more insight than a gag reflex. Unfortunately, once that mercenary crowd of reactionaries disperses, it feels like the only people left to talk to are the reactionary mercenaries. That's a strange thing to think about, isn't it? Some games have shooters. Speak ill of, say, something like Undertale, and there's a chance you get gifted a brick and a broken window by the opinion police. And the odds are even higher if the game was even remotely difficult. Those fanatics feel like they have to justify the hazing they underwent. That suffering has to mean something. I blame myself. Someone has to. I used to see the Git Good crowd as a necessary evil because they naturally cool off the hot takes and crybabies. You know the type. They're allergic to any kind of challenge. As soon as the going gets tough, they go, "This is a terrible game. It's ableist. It's artificially difficult. I only do homegrown organic farm-to-table difficulty." The Japanese can't balance to save their lives. They deserve the bomb, both of them. One for Dark Souls and one for Mario Kart. That's how it goes every time. Now, to be fair, Mario Kart does cheat with the rubber banding mechanic, but it is a party game. I expect the game to be fair as much as I expect myself to be sober while I'm playing it.
I'm drunk now.
That is the kind of conversation we can't have with people who need to bait the algorithm for a living or fall apart when they're not winning on their terms. They won't survive the winter. Yes, the Git Good bros would ask if you beat a game before they considered your criticism valid, but I thought that was a small ask. I don't condone gatekeeping, but sometimes I do wish someone would go down the aisle of the gaming community with a hole puncher going, ticket please. The fool I was, the enemy of my enemy is not my friend after all. The saying should go, the enemy of my enemy is my enemy in Season 2.
Shame!
The Git Good acolytes became more puritanical. We went from simply, "Did you beat the game?" to, "You didn't beat the game if you used summoning signs. You didn't really beat the game if you used a health vigor build. You didn't really beat the game if you stopped to farm. Did you even play the PvP, bro?" It's enough to make you look down at your feet to make sure the ground's still there. It's not you. You're not crazy. It's the goalposts that are slowly drifting away. Thankfully, these people have become much easier to ignore. Once they out themselves and their purity tests become more strict and contrived, they eventually turn on each other, push each other off bridges like in that one Emo Phillips joke that's too long, but you can read it here if you like. Oh no, it's a different sect of the cult of difficulty that ruins conversation more than those who chant Git Good. The ones who believe that even if you did beat the game, your criticism is invalid because you didn't understand the game. We've gone from Git Good to Git Literate.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal.
You see, the game was tedious, because it's a metaphor for when things are tedious. This is called ludonarrative harmony, You would know if you could read the tiny item descriptions that say ambiguous things like, once part of an ornate gift to a regal degenerate from the Westlands. Only the stem remains of this once lavish ring, which you would know the meaning of if you got all the endings and watched the lore videos, You did not enjoy yourself because the developers did not want you to enjoy yourself intentionally, which means they did exactly what they set out to do, which makes your criticism null and void, That's the kind of guy I am. I will mock your opinion, but I'll give you the cool voice. It's the only way to keep it fair. Every opinion sounds stupid when you make it sound like, Listen here, amigo. I'm a gameplay first kind of monkey. I don't buy when criticism is excused for the sake of the writing. That's how you know it's a cult. The phrase lore accurate and narratively justified. Well, that's no different than saying,
So it is written.
And this happens every time a beautiful game comes out that's slightly spicier than average. So as I sat there contemplating why should I bother with this topic and how should I bother with this topic, I remembered a part of Silksong. Unlike everywhere else in Farloom, here there's no physical barrier preventing Hornet from just walking away from it all, go out for a pack of cigs, not my circus, not my monkeys. But if you try, Hornet stops and says to herself, were I to flee now, I would again be pursued. She's too real for that. That's when it clicked. Team Cherry created quite the metaphor. Not get good as alleged, but what does getting good get you? There's only one good cult, and that is Lost in Cult. They partner up with some of the most beloved developers to deliver high-end premium deep dive books of my favorite video games. We're talking exclusive interviews, never-before-seen art, and saucy secrets spilled all over the linoleum for games like Outer Wilds, Alan Wake, Animal Well, many more before, and many more to come. And right now, it's mouthwashing season. In partnership with Wrong Organ and Critical Reflex, the Mouthwashing Design Works delves into the nearly botched then saved development of the highly acclaimed low-poly horror darling. Yes, it does. We're talking roughly 200 pages shining a light in the grimiest corners of the Tulpar, its ill-fated cast, and the people who made them. As always, with Lost in Cult's Design Works range, there's a limited deluxe edition available exclusively during its pre-order campaign, which ends on November 28th. The deluxe edition comes encased in a Dragon Breath themed box. Inside, fans can expect to find a micro tabletop RPG designed by Dungeon Club Games, complete with a set of mouthwashing themed dice. Also included are postcards, posters, a happy little psych evaluation form, a 3D papercraft party set complete with mouthwash, and a lovely embroidered patch so people know you're one of us. Lost in Cult always creates books that detail and document the development process of some of the very best games around, and this Mouthwashing Design Works is no different. If this looks up your alley, please show your support. Use code FROSTMOUTH at bit.ly/FrostLIC or click the link in the description to receive 5% off this brand new mouthwashing collection, or 5% off anything from the rest of this amazing store right now. Join the cult, Lost in Cult. You will have few opinions of this world that are as personal, as intimate, and as revealing as your views on difficulty. To reveal them is to dox the coordinates to your current position on this journey we call life. You speak of strength and whisper weakness. You seek pleasure and bargain with pain. It can make a person feel exposed, vulnerable. And what do people do when they're vulnerable? Some get defensive, some go on the attack. Some break down, some break out into song. Some make God, some kill God. There are no wrong answers in the Twilight Zone. The bug world of Silksong is nested in a cold, hard truth. Some of us will not make it. Dare I say, when calamity strikes, the majority of us are destined to trip, fall, and exit stage right. This skull's yours, that skull's mine, you can tell by the dents. But with the power of video games, you can pretend to be someone a little more resilient, a little luckier, a little spider, and witness the different ideologies of those that survived the amuse-bouche apocalypse that keeps them trucking towards the main course. Because at that point, you have to believe in something. If you survived the beginning of the end times, and knew the ending of the end times was happening tomorrow, and you didn't believe in an afterlife, would you still do the dishes tonight? Doubtful. But I'd bet you'd still wipe your ass. Think about it. The different bugs of Farloom have various beliefs to keep them doing the metaphorical dishes. One warrior is searching for their missing master. Another rides to avenge the destruction of its home village. A caravan of fleas is running away to a legendary sanctuary. Get it? They're fleeing. It's what they do. That and voyeurism, like this little pervert. And along the way, you come across many a pilgrim, weak of body yet strong of faith, desperately trekking through flaming fields, across rolling moors, and up great gilded steps, all to reach that eternal shining citadel that no one ever returns from. No one knows what's going on in there. Maybe dubstep. But it's not enough to just get good and get to the front door of the Citadel. You also have to be pure. What that means, who knows? One pilgrim says it's a sin to travel with a weapon. Another says it's a sin to ride the bus. Not like they could afford it. Most of them cost 10 times more than whatever the poorest ones are carrying. And even if they could afford it, it doesn't work. The bus driver's stuck. And even if the bus was in working condition and they could afford it and it wasn't a sin to ride, the pilgrims wouldn't want to pay because it cost rosemaries. I just realized I've been calling them rosemaries this whole time. Rosaries. They cost rosaries, the thing they measure their faith with. And what happens to ye of little faith? They are offered yet another chance to get good. Underneath the Citadel, full of grime and sharp corners, bugs toil away as a form of penance. Work dutifully, earn rosaries, and one day you can enter the Citadel. But it's all a lie. You are paid meager amounts of rosaries, if at all. The rest benches here are cheaper than the rest benches you found on your pilgrimage, but now they're single use. They fold into themselves and charge you for repeated access. And there's a confession booth where you can pay to hopefully absolve your sins, but all it does is deliver an automated message that tells you to work harder for salvation. But you can't. No one can work or believe harder than Loam. Hidden behind a wall, an overworked bug runs and runs and runs. His body held up by layers of coping mechanisms. He runs because he believes one day he'll generate enough rosaries to be allowed into the Citadel. He runs because even if he doesn't get in, he believes his treadmill's crucial to this entire operation. Even after you try to tell him he may have been abandoned, he runs. If good old Loam can't make it into the Citadel, then who can? Well, the rich, of course. Hey, who else do you think? High above in the decadent halls of the Citadel, dressed in gold and white, are the upper class. And when you kill these guys, they have way more pocket change than all the other pilgrims you killed along the way, but wouldn't you know it, the benches here don't cost money. Because paying for things is what poor people do. You know what wealthy people do? They surgically enhance themselves with silk to the point where their offspring are born with it, and then they get turned into zombies. Little do the 1% of Farloom know that the reason they're singing is to keep the Queen Mother, the true ruler of this land, from waking up. They think they're singing hymns of gratitude to a benevolent ruler who saw them as worthy when she is in actuality a tyrant. It's in her nature. And her reign was usurped by her daughters because it's in their nature. Wait, I just realized that could be taken the wrong way. It's not because they're women, it's because they're spider things and it's part of their animalistic nature in this game. And when they realized that they couldn't keep the real queen down forever, they abandoned ship and gave control over to the conductors who kept the Citadel running so they could stay in power and continue to enjoy the free spa. But the queen is semi-conscious and able to take control of anything and everything in the kingdom that's infused with silk. The aristocrats are infused with silk from all the silk facelifts they underwent. Their offspring are infused with silk. The kingdom is built on the bones of dead bugs that had silk in them. Everyone is trapped in Grandmother Silk's web. Most of the bugs are no more than corrupted, mindless zombies attacking anyone that dares stand against the queen and stop the singing of the praises that keep her alive and thriving. Now, this is all fairly straightforward stuff. I'm not digging deep for details or reaching for outside context. Sure, it's more fun to think that Loam is basically Boxer from George Orwell's Animal Farm, and that Blasphemous is now the second most Catholic game I've ever played, or that silk is a metaphor for the microplastics in your testicles. There are numerous messages to pull from Silk Song, and maybe Git Gud is one of them. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying it's disingenuous or maybe tunnel vision to say that's the only message or even the main message when there's a bigger, much more in-your-face message than Git Good, and that's, as I said before, what does getting good get you? Most everyone in Farloom is miserable and brain dead. Both the pilgrims who are not good enough to get into the Citadel and the ones who were. Is that really what you want to be when you grow up? The only one having a decent time of it all is a pilgrim named Sherma, the Citadel's #1 fan. Look at him. Sweet, naive, highly optimistic, woefully underprepared Sherma. He's a team player. He's a little Boy Scout who helps out when he can. That's what he believes it's all about and what he continues to believe in even after he goes into the White Ward and discovers all the botched silk BBLs the bourgeoisie were trying to hide. Ain't nothing pure about that. But even after he loses his religion and finds out his God is a fraud, he keeps his faith in his fellow bug. Now you tell me, does that sound like the message is get good, or is it do good? At least where you can. You can't even get into the third act of the game without helping others. And this isn't just a Silk Song thing. The poster boys of mainstream difficulty tend to have a thick storyline or two about cooperation. One that the Git Good bros gloss over each and every time. I remember when the non-official tagline for Dark Souls was Jolly Cooperation. Yes, I too am a Souls-like and spicy game veteran. I'm just not sure what I was fighting for after the first one. I'm not really proud that I served as much as I did. Silk Song put that back into perspective for me. Now how they went about it, well, that's the real conversation we've been trying to have. In the year 2025, I don't believe in bad game design. Nope, not at this level. Rarely can I just go, ooh, that part right there, you throw that out and you got yourself a masterpiece. No, I find the problem to be more context or composition. I can go, this part's fine, this part's fine, this part's fine, but once they're all together in motion, there's friction and now there's a fire hazard. I'll use the benches as an example. There's a lot of things you can do with these benches. It's a respawn point, it resets your health, it costs money, it's how you swap out your inventory, it's how you update the map, it resets enemy placements, so if something is off, we may not know if the problem is the bench, the location of the bench itself, the economy, the enemy placement, enemy damage, your inventory. It's a lot of moving parts with a lot of potential to frustrate different people in different ways. So you're gonna hear a lot of different feedback, and the crazy part is they might all be correct based on how they play. That's the inherent risk in Metroidvanias. They let you go to the right, they let you go to the left, and adventure awaits in either direction. And from my experience, what differentiates Team Cherry from the rest of the genre is the scale and how loose they're willing to keep their design choices. Going one direction over another in Silksong can turn into a substantially different playthrough, sometimes to a player's detriment. Based on your decisions, you could hit a sublime playthrough that's just the right balance of exploration, combat, exposition, pacing, and challenge. Or your playstyle could lead you to accomplish nothing and feel like you wasted your time. You could accidentally keep yourself underpowered, or you could accidentally become overpowered. It's easy to hear this and think gamers feel entitled to beating video games or need handholding, but I think it's more so that some players prefer a tighter, more curated experience. When looking at it from that angle, I think I do come out preferring Hollow Knight to Silksong. You can have different playthroughs of Hollow Knight, but the character you're playing won't be all that different from itself, which does make it easier for the devs to keep track of and balance. Whereas now Silksong's got the red tools, the crest, and the upgrades, which let you make different builds with different strengths and weaknesses, and so the bosses have a lot of health so they don't get steamrolled. That means they'll feel like a slog if you grew attached to a fun but not so optimal build. Here's something I found fascinating. I looked up the most downloaded Silksong mods on Nexus Mods. And with how much people were complaining, I expected the most popular mod to be a damage mod. But it turned out to be a mod that shows health bars and damage numbers. That's all it does, give information, and it has 180,000 downloads, which really makes sense when you think about it. These Metroidvania Soul type games have an unwritten rule that if something is too hard, then maybe it's better if you explore somewhere else first. You might be lacking upgrades, you might be in a harder area too soon. If I go into a boss fight, and I take 4 health points off of a 1,000 health point bar, I'm turning around, I'm walking away. Sorry, I thought this was the bathroom. But because I never knew how strong I was in Silksong, whether I was willing to try again had more to do with how far away I was from a fast travel spot. I'd take my leave, gather some more materials, come back, and drop the nuke. Now it's too easy. While health bars may be ugly, they do let players find their fun and fine-tune their experience in loose, open-ended kind of games. The second most downloaded mod at 110,000 downloads lets you see where you are on the map at all times, instead of needing to equip the map charm. Whereas the damage mods were at 80k and 60k downloads. If these mods are anything to go by, I think they show that more than power itself, players want the information that empowers their decision-making. This can help alleviate the tedium allegations, but only by so much. The Magnet Effect mod was downloaded 88,000 times. This makes it so you don't have to stop and collect the shards and rosaries that spill off of enemies. And the Stake of Marika mod was downloaded 82,000 times. This makes it so if you die, you respawn at the start of the scene instead of all the way back at the last rest bench, minimizing runback time. In my humble opinion, Silksong could use some refinement. I know the Git Good crowd romanticizes frustrating mechanics as death by 1,000 cut, but it's not that glorious, manly, or badass. Here it's more like fatigued by a dozen pet peeves. If someone's already struggling with a boss fight and they don't like that they have to run back in between attempts, then picking up loose change along the way is liable to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And it's not just that the tedious parts drag on, the fun parts are short-lived. Here's one example, Hornet's moveset. It lets her dominate any enemy that stands in this zone. Controlling her is fast, precise, and the abilities you unlock make her even more lethal in this zone. But she's not as strong when dealing with this zone, her upper diagonals. And if the enemy can get above her and do contact damage, or if she runs out of room to move, then she doesn't do all that well vertically either. So what you end up with are fun, amazing, memorable fights like the first Sinner, or Grandmother Silk where you're floating like a fae and stinging like a hornet, or fights that feel like you're swatting at flies over your head. It's like having a souped up car that can hit top speeds of 500 miles per hour, but you're stuck creeping along in traffic, maybe playing with the windshield wiper. And I think Team Cherry's first patch note lends me a little credibility, because they nerfed Morwing and Sister Splinter. Morwing, for the most part, just kind of stays floating in your upper diagonal, so it's a lot of jump, move forward, attack, move back, repeat. He's fighting for his life, I'm zoning out. Sister Splinter can be a little more awkward because she doesn't fit into that diagonal real clean, and she can hit you from above. And if you're too slow to deal damage, the room kind of fills up with thorny vines and smaller enemies, and the mob RNG doesn't make it any easier. For lack of a better word, it lacks elegance. There's not much in the way of expression or reward in these fights if you know what you're doing, unless the reward is you don't suffer like those who don't know what they're doing, which is consistent with the narrative, but hurting a player to make a grander point about suffering is so 2017. Not to mention, I think it's a little overplayed and not all that impactful. It almost mutes the point. Like, yeah, class suffering is exactly like that one time when in Silksong I saw that a checkpoint cost 80 rosaries and I only had 60. Eat the rich. Eat the rich. More likely, they'll probably just hate poor people. How come none of these idiots pitched in to open a permanent bench? Why do I have to pay for all the benches? And that's what it comes down to. In the last 8 years, we've seen more games come out that are more mechanically demanding or more thematically oppressive than Silksong that still manage to hurt you while staying focused on the fun and minimizing the minor frustrations. It is possible to critique this game without using the word difficult, but it's still the best word. Because the best way, in my opinion, to describe Silksong is by pointing out that there's 2 ways to use the word difficult. If you can tell the difference, then you'll instantly know what I'm getting at. There's the first way, where I'll say something like, it's a little difficult, it's kind of difficult. Oh man, that was difficult. And then there's the second way. Okay, now you're just being difficult.